Aloha. So today I want to talk about something I don't think I've talked about before, and that is there's some words that I really believe should be taken out of the English language. And the one that's highest on my priority list is failure. Failure is a word that really stops us from moving forward, and I believe that there's no such thing as failure anyway. And I'm going to explain that in just a minute. So one of our greatest fears, I believe, is the fear of failure. And it seems like it's built into our DNA. It's deeply rooted in the collective fear, that of failure to survive as a species. So we created tribes, which are a group of families that come together and are able to improve the chances of survival. And as we know, in the ancient past, if one was separated from the pack or the tribe, they were isolated and usually died. You can even see that as, during the time of the cavemen and moving forward. You can see that would have happened. And now this collective fear is projected out into the world, and it's projected onto money and how much money we have. In the present days, for most people, this fear is so intricately linked with money. It creates a physical feeling inside our bodies when we don't have enough. It also creates a physical feeling in our bodies when we do have enough, or even more than enough to survive or have a good life. This fear keeps us operating at a very low frequency level. But what happens is that we believe that the larger our bank account is, the less chance there is of failure. And the world of competition operates from this level as well. And we're talking about not just competition from high levels, but even really levels that are close to us, like our families, and how we compete against each other, children against children, family against family, keeping up with the Joneses, that kind of thing. It may look like it's just about products and corporations, but everyone is competing against the other, one tribe against the other. Money is now a great symbol for success. But does success really have anything to do with happiness? Does success financially have to do with happiness? We believe it. We believe it until we don't have it. And when you have less and have to live with what you thought was less than what you needed, can you be happy? Do we even have to go and explore that? Lose everything to find happiness with nothing? Now, that could be true for you. You never know. We each come in for our own experience. But the whole money game is an illusion in that it's a game you can never win because there's no end until you die. When you play baseball or basketball or even croquet as a game, the game ends. But when it comes to money, the game never ends. You always need it, and you always think that you need more and more. So that fear of failure is always running in the background until you die. That sounds so horrible to me. How does it feel to you? Is that what you want to have running in the background of your life? And it's running in the background of our lives until we decide to look at it. When there's something that's so deeply embedded in us, we can't even see it until it's brought to our attention. Money is an issue in our world because fear needs something to feed on. If we got rid of money, something else would show up instead. So, is it important to get rid of money? That's a question I'm not going to answer for you. The fear is what we need to deal with, not really money. I guess I did answer that, didn't I? Oh well. What is true success? I think true success is no longer being ruled by the concepts of failure and success. Have you really failed when a marriage or relationship breaks up and you're on the receiving end? I don't think so. On really, really, really deep levels, there is no failure when a relationship breaks up. The person who is leaving has changed and realizes it first, and has decided to leave the relationship because they need to move forward. Or the person leaving has decided that the other partner has changed so much they can no longer stay. It's not helpful to them. If we're here to move forward in our lives and to have one experience after another that is teaching us about how we can be love and how we can be loving, there can't be failure. There's no failure at all. We view it as failure because we have a false belief that anything can last forever. Do you know anything that's lasted forever? On Earth, plants die, humans die, everything transitions, everything that's man-made breaks down, Earth transforms, everything either transforms or transitions. You can call it die if you want. So the fear of failure creates such deep separation amongst us because it ensures that we will always be selfish, whether as an individual, a family, a tribe, or a corporation. And because of this belief, we will always remain either elitists or stingy with our love and our money. The fear of failure, and actually it's not really about the fear, it's about how to release it, how to observe it, and how to shift ourselves. So in the past, because of fear, we would isolate ourselves, or we were isolated by our group, our tribe, and then we were cut off from support and nourishment. Now, because we're so adept at survival skills, you've seen people isolated all on their own, and they can do it as long as they have enough money. We can survive as long as we can afford it. But what's the point of that, living in isolation? What about life as a whole? Do we even isolate ourselves from Mother Earth? Sitting up in our cement apartments, looking down at everything else. Are we willing to raise our consciousness enough to include our whole species? Well, these are the cosmic questions. But how do we shift this fear? The mind is what reacts to this fear and feeds it. Your body follows your mind, and so this fear will affect your immune system on very deep levels. It doesn't start out creating pain and disease in your body at first, but slowly, as your immune system becomes suppressed, different states of dis-ease will show up. If you don't know how to control your mind and your thoughts, your mind will run amok while running your life. Now, I'm sure all of us can see that even at this moment, where our mind is running amok, where it's taking us into places that if we would just stop and slow down and go into our hearts and remember that we are loved, things might shift. Now, this is not going to work for everyone, but this is just a thought. So how do we raise the consciousness of our minds? We have to escape the grip of all fears, but we can start with one at a time. And many times when we can access that strongest one, like the fear of failure, it can connect to many other fears at the same time and just release them. It doesn't mean that we'll never feel this ancient fear again. It's in the collective consciousness. And it's what we do with this fear, or what we don't do with this fear, that's important. When we go to the extreme, we don't allow others to assist or support us or love us. We can become tight and stingy, as we mentioned earlier. Many times, people become fundamentalists with religion or society, and they begin to cut themselves off emotionally, physically, and financially. Sometimes we move into small communities or cults with similar beliefs that stay in their own worlds, creating separation. Even when you go to, let's say you go to a Zen monastery and you go into meditation, these philosophies really stress that when you're done, that you move into the community with that thought that you've learned within that monastery, that being able to take that quiet and that stillness and that love and take it out into the collective, not to stay in the monastery and hold it within yourself, but to take it out and share it. When we feel so angry that we're the only one who can support us, we oftentimes become self-destructive and keep doing things that will keep proving that you are right, that no one will support you. When you lose touch with the flow of life, nothing goes smoothly, and you eventually cut yourself off from the source. It's important to remember every decision that we make in life either connects us to something greater than ourselves or cuts us off from this source, leaving us feeling lonely and isolated. And it only takes a moment to reconnect. When you can be your true self, when you can honestly talk to someone and say what you're fearing, you can allow, just in the listening, yourself to release the fear. When we learn to respond to this fear of failure instead of reacting to it, our lives will begin to have less contraction. When we learn to breathe and create a gap in the thought pattern that reacts to fear, we will be able to respond from the gap that connects us to our heart. I had a teacher a few years back who was so amazing, and we'd be all together, in a group talking to each other, and he would come right up behind you and put his head on your shoulder almost, and the conversation would completely stop, and both people would focus on him. And he would just say something really silly and want us to go back to the conversation. But instead of going back to the conversation, you'd think he was more important. And what he was trying to teach us with that gap was to stay in your heart. Can you stay in your heart even when there's a gap, when there's a flash? Can you go back and honor the person that you were just speaking with, or feel honored yourself? This is really, really important, to use the gaps that come and keep us back in that state of love. We have the opportunity to start all over every single moment. You can wake up in the morning tomorrow after hearing this and think, wow, I'm going to do it different today. I'm going to just take a breath when I'm feeling that beginning energy of something challenging me, that fear or resentment or guilt or anger. You can start all over again in the morning. It has served a purpose, as all fears do. These fears have allowed us to survive through time and actually evolve. There are other fears, though, that are deeply connected to the fear of failure, such as the fear of death. Remember the saying about death and taxes, because we've been talking about money. And then there is the moment that we transcend them and go beyond the animal instinct, the monkey mind, as we begin to think beyond ourselves. As we expand our consciousness and raise our frequency beyond the concept of success and failure, we move into the truth that all of life is moving in a cosmic pattern. Now you can, if you've studied quantum physics or learned about some of the new thoughts, you know that this pattern is a spiraling pattern, that we never go back to the same spot in our cycles. And as you see that, when we are dealing with change, we either stay the same or we change. We don't really succeed or fail at all, because where we are is just fine. Whether it be personally or in business, we really can never fail. It's now an issue, and has always been an issue, of control by someone else, someone trying to control us by telling us we're a failure, that we should be this, or we should do that, or we could have happiness if we were like this, or we would get more if we would do this. And then that voice becomes a voice that we decide to take on and listen to the voice inside of ourselves instead of our own voice. We're listening to somebody else's voice that has now somehow taken on a voice inside of us. And then we feel like we don't have any control at all. And it can take us into a dark place connected to the lack of self-worth, a fear of rejection, and we lack in trust of ourselves, in trust of the world, in trust of God. We just are in lack. And that can bring in lack of everything, lack of abundance, money, love. So we've all been here at one time or another in this feeling of lack. It seems very circular, like I said before, but in truth, it's a spiral that you will eventually move upwards on. And as you let go into the cosmic pattern of the spiral, you'll begin to feel supported. As you raise your frequency, even one tiny 26th of a percent, doesn't matter how small it is, even just one iota, your consciousness about this fear will change, and you'll find that money or whatever you need will arrive right when it's needed. Going to this deep level of trust creates deep relaxation. So what if we loved ourselves as much as we love others? What if we took this strong love and directed it inside and loved every single cell? What would happen? It is so magnificent when we take that love that we've directed outwards and we send it like a light, that beautiful love light that you send, that comes out of every pore of your body when you're loving another, and direct it, make it small into this ball of light, and then turn the volume of that light up to the brightest halogen light of whatever color that love is, and send it slowly through your body, penetrating into every single cell, releasing anything that's blocking you from feeling that love with yourself. Maybe that's something you could even try right now. So I also want to tell you that a ring was found at the Natural Health Clinic in Lihue. You can call Linda at 245-2277 on Monday. They're not open today, but there was a ring found. So what if that ring, a ring symbolizes love? What if that ring could be the one that you see within yourself? See that circle of love, that ball of love that I just told you about, and send that really like deeply into yourself with whatever color your love looks like when you send it out to others. Try it. It's quite amazing when you do it. So, where were we? Let's see. Money. Yes, money. Money can provide one of the greatest teachings in letting go of fear. While we have it, we should definitely make the best use of it as a symbol of our willingness to surrender to higher consciousness, knowing that you can have abundance in every way. And when you feel yourself worrying about it, take a couple of deep breaths and smile inside and thank God, Creator, Spirit, your mother, whoever it is that you want to thank, and relax and know that you are moving into the new paradigm of trust, knowing that everything you need will come. When we begin to see beyond our own world, when we move out of this fear, we go beyond selfishness and into the community and into the world. As we realize that everything can come to us as we walk out of fear, we begin to be part of the greater good for ourselves and the planet. We move into balance about everything. We have restraint where before there was none. We have discernment and can know what is for our highest good. We begin to understand the concept of preserving all life. We understand that if we want to flourish, we must adapt and let go of our past limited beliefs. We're able to let go of anything that doesn't serve us, and the fear of failure that prevents us from adapting to new systems diminishes until it's no longer there. As we look at nature as our mirror, we see the gift of preservation all around us. The more we align ourselves with nature and live based on the rules of nature, we'll become more and more successful as beings and as a species. We'll see that to be successful is to live in harmony, not in competition. All of nature lives in harmony with itself. This is really a challenging practice because if you look around you, you might not see any harmony at all, maybe a little bit. But even that little bit of harmony can grow and grow and grow because that's what each of us wants to feel. The earth will teach us again how to live within our natural rhythms. And as we listen to the great wisdom of nature and our indigenous cultures, we'll begin to find our inner spirit as individuals and as the collective, and begin to merge the ancient past of who we've been into future harmony. Only by exploring these beliefs and looking deeply at the causes of these will we be able to free ourselves and become the amazing human beings that we already are. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you actually next week. This is Taj with Transformational Tea, and I do want to say that with working with fears, really all we're doing is changing our perceptions. It doesn't matter if you have money. It doesn't matter if you don't. It doesn't matter if you donate. It doesn't matter if you stay right where you are. It's about changing your perception and going out of blame, going out of guilt, going out of fear, and walking in the you, the I am that is you. And there's no judgments. That's actually another fear that we're going to go over next week. So definitely stay tuned and listen in.